Good morning everybody, and thanks for joining me. As you can see, I'm in one of Dartmoor's woodlands down by the River Dart itself. It's mid-October and the colours are really starting to change now. Now I've given myself some high expectations this morning, and now that I've seen the colours, I'm really hoping I get some good images, but always a bad thing to do that to yourself. I've been here a little while already. I've just been walking downstream. It was a little dark earlier to film too much, but I have taken some images already. It's quite overcast, so I'm not having to worry about any highlights. And yeah, let's go and see what we can find, shall we? Well, I haven't come very far before I found what I think is my first shot of the day. The tree across the other side of the river there. I think about half the leaves are gone, and you can see all the spindly branches. But in this low light they look very cloud-like. And also underneath, the main trunk of the tree branches out across the river. Now there's not much light at the moment, not much of a reflection either. Now I'm going to try it with the polarizer on, and I'm going to adjust that. I'll try some cutting the reflection out completely and some giving it some sort of interest in the water. And I might try the whole tree, maybe put it to the right of the shot and lead your eye down the river. And also the branch at the bottom, I might just isolate that and try and make a letterbox shot of that. There's also a dipper just down there in the river, and I can hear one just up here somewhere. So I might put the longer lens on later on in the day. There's just not enough light just now, but to take this shot, this is perfect. Hopefully I'm just going to catch all those colours with a longer exposure. Let me show you the settings. So for this shot I'm zoomed in on that branch at the bottom, making sure I'm not cutting the rocks off on the right hand side. Exposure wise, I've got the histogram more or less bang in the middle. There's no highlights clipping. I want this to be quite bright, and you can see that dark patch in the middle, and that's caused by this polarizer. If I let's turn the camera back on for you. Now if I adjust the polarizer, you can see the whole shot going much darker, and it doesn't lead your eye into the middle. Now if I turn the polarizer off a little and let some of those reflections come through from the sky and the brightness in the tree, you see that concentrates that dark area in the middle and accentuates the branches. Anyway, I'm at f11. I could have a shallower depth of field, I think, on this, but f11 seems to be working well. It's about 3 seconds exposure with that water going past. It's going to be really smooth. ISO 100. I can go down to ISO 50, but then I think the exposure would be, or the shutter speed would be too long. Make sure the focus is right. And let's see what that looks like. Well, it's been a while since I've discussed settings. It was still very dark, so the 2-second shutter speed was really just to get the right exposure. Could have pushed the ISO up, but I kept it down at ISO 50, f8 just to get the tree in focus, and then obviously 22mm just to frame the shot. And then this one, I had the 16 to 55mm lens on, so zooming in a little bit, and then giving it a deeper depth of field with f11. I probably didn't need to do that. Still very dark, so this one took 8 seconds to get this exposure. So of course I packed the tripod away and started to walk along the path, and just seen another angle on this tree and another image I like. So top tip, have a good walk around your subject before you move on. Anyway, you can see what I like. Still got the branch underneath the tree itself, and whether polarized or not, don't know just yet. I'm going to try both, and I think this will look good as either a square crop of the tree with the water below, or maybe that one and the trees just to the left of it. Let's give that a go. Well, you can see there's a real difference between the film footage and the image, even though they're filmed on the same camera. And in processing, I've also taken the clarity down and tried best I can to give it that watercolor look. I probably haven't achieved that yet, and I will have to keep trying. Settings wise, pretty similar to the first two images. As I'm walking along, there's so much to see here. I'm going to have to get to my objective. I'm trying to get to a part of the woodland I've been to before, where I know there's some really nice subjects. But the colours this morning are really nice. It's still very dull, it's overcast. The sun has already risen, but with a low exposure and virtually no wind at the moment, you can take some long exposure shots here and capture all that colour. But yeah, there's a lovely mountain ash or rowan growing out of the boulders here. At the moment it's quite dark around it. There's quite a bit of sky behind, so as it gets brighter I think that's not going to work. But I do want a little bit more light on that. I might come back and see if that's still a good shot on the way back. And then if I spin you around here, there's a open part by the river here, and there's some really nice birch trees. Well, I took a few images while I was there rather than coming back. I set the shutter speed to 1/100th of a second so I could hand hold it, and put it on auto ISO, which pushed the ISO up to 6400 because it was so dark. f8 just to get a decent depth of field. But I really like this one. That really shows the colours changing this time of year, all the way through from green to orange. I seem to be seeing images everywhere this morning. Is that a shot? Not sure. So I don't think I'm going to waste too much time here. But like that previous shot across the river, I think this has got some sort of quality to it. The background looks almost like a watercolour. I guess you could call it painterly if you wanted. Again, not sure about polarisation. I'm not going to polarise this too much, and I think I might overexpose it a little bit as well. Well, if it's any good, let's have a look at the shot. So I don't think this shot's actually very good at all, but I thought I'd show you anyway. You don't always get it right. There's some balance to it, I guess, and you could probably see what I'm trying to do. There's the path on the right hand side. The tree makes a nice feature. I'm not sure about the colours though, and it just doesn't, I don't know, doesn't gel together for me. Well, finally I've reached the start of the woodland that I was aiming for. The river splits into two here and just goes around this island and starts to cascade down, loses a little bit of elevation. Things start to get a little bit more interesting. There's a lot more boulders and the trees start to look a lot more gnarly, if you like. Wow, look at this. This is just fantastic, isn't it? I really love how you've got these larger trees trying to grow in the boulders here, cascading down over the river. All these lovely colours with the leaves still on the trees. I think the Japanese have a word for this. In English it's called forest bathing. Nothing to do with getting wet though. But are there any images here? One thing's for sure, this is a lovely place to be early in the morning. I'm just going to stop here for a little while. I'm seeing images as I walk along, but it's always nice just to stand still, just soak up the atmosphere. And maybe there's images here that I haven't seen. In fact, just seen some lovely fungus on the side of one of the trees over there. But what I think I'd like to do is get a shot through these trees. It's a little confusing, so I want to get some sort of composition, but there's colour everywhere, and just to capture that. And of course those of you that follow me know where I am. I've been to this part of the woodland many times before, and as I've said before, I love this almost battle between these two halves here. The bracken's dying off at the bottom here, giving that nice colour in the bottom half of the shot, and of course the trees are all changing colour. All I need to do is find some sort of composition in the trees. So I'll walk along a little bit and see what I can find, and then after that I think I might see if I can find a track that leads me up into the boulder field. Now I don't want to trample on anything, so I'll look for animal tracks and see if there's any way up into these more gnarly trees and see if there's something to take there. So this image isn't quite what I imagined when I said about looking through the trees, but I really struggled finding the image. I think the light has gone a little bit. It's not shining through the trees so much. The sun's a bit higher. Still lots of colour, but it's not shining through those trees. So I'm going to take advantage of the colour and the bracken down here and see what I can make of that. So not a lot is the answer. Some images just don't work, and I don't know what I was thinking with this. There's just no balance to it. The bracken in the foreground is just distracting. The trees in the background, I do quite like the colours there, but there's no composition, there's no proper structure, it's just a little bit chaotic. So all along the river there's these views through the trees, and you stop and you think you can see an image there, but really difficult to compose something. The water in the bottom of this shot would look good at a 1 second exposure, and you can make a square crop of this, but really not sure. Maybe it's because it looks so good at the moment. I'm being a little too picky. So with a bit of luck I did find an animal track, quite a good one, that winds up through the boulder field here. So I've walked up and I've found, I think, exactly what I was looking for. Light keeps coming and going, but I've found some really nice gnarly trees there. Let me show you the composition I have in the back of the camera. I've found these 3 or 4 lovely twisted trees. Now I'm looking down the hill, so that means I'm cutting out all the highlights from the sky, which is great. All I've had to do is move around a little bit just to make sure I separate the actual trees themselves, and there's nothing obviously crossing over that is spoiling the image. Obviously in the middle there's a bit of a cross, but the branches from behind sort of fill the space between the branches of the other one, so it works really quite well. Now I'm going to use the polariser again. Don't know quite how I'm going to use that. I think I'm going to have it about halfway, so I bring out some colours but don't make it too dark, and then I'll try moving the shutter speed to just overexpose it a little bit and underexpose it. Again, there's virtually no wind here, so should be good. Well, settings wise, that was f13 for the get a good depth of field, ISO 100, and the shutter speed I ended up at half a second. Let's see what that looks like, shall we? Finally, that's better. I've got some half decent images. Now in processing I have made this image quite dark. Settings wise, f13, obviously I want to try and get everything in focus. ISO 100 so it's not too noisy, and shutter speed came out at 1/3 of a second. And just moving to the left slightly, trying to get a different composition. Again, in processing I have darkened the foreground of this shot and made a feature of the light coming through the trees. The colours are quite natural as they were, but I have pushed the saturation up a bit. Well, I hope those last shots were worth it, because that was a real effort getting up into the boulder field and back down. On the way back I've took the wrong track and it took longer than expected to get back down. Anyway, the sun's now shining as well, so it's very warm. But what that is doing is shining some light through the trees I was trying to photograph earlier. So I'm having another look. While filming on this Pocket 2 straight into the sun, this may look a little overexposed, but you can see the composition I'm looking at. And with the sun now shining through the trees, I think this might work. Let's try looking through the Sony. Well, that's a composition through the Sony, trying to separate all those trees and get the exposure right so that I can recover all the detail from the shadow, but not blow out the highlights in the background there, especially that little tree which is a focal point in the background there. Well, hopefully you'll agree this is so much better than the last shot I took through the trees with the bracken at the bottom. I've tried to compose the vertical tree trunks, separated them. There is a little bit of clutter on the left hand side, but the light shining on the tree in the background just really works, and I've not edited that at all. Well, I'm back at my old friend here, and I think I'm going to call it a day. It's been a lovely morning. The colours are really fantastic this time of year. So if you've got a camera, get out and see what you can find. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, and I'll see you all again soon. But for now, cheerio. All right, buddy. See you again next time.
Go away, you weirdo.